what does this remind me of? What could this game be inspired by?
Show yourself!
More importantly, why did nobody think of this before? Created by part man, part god, Jason Smith to be the ultimate boomer shooter that will decimate any other lesser boomer shooters by its sheer quality and awesomeness. I totally made that last part up, but Cultic is a good game. Introductions to videos are cringe, so...
Let's go.
I have a bad feeling about this.
From the brief intro, we learn that Cultic guy, and yes, that's what we'll call him, is a former detective that was investigating the relation between misconduct at an insane asylum and a bunch of missing persons. That means this guy got called into the police chief's office and asked to hand in his badge and gun. Arriving at the asylum, he gets smashed in the head and brought to a mass grave, where our protagonist left for dead. But then, he lives again. Simple, right? And that's all it needs to be. Any more story and we're dealing with a modern FPS. Obviously, there's a little more to this, and while playing you'll find various notes left behind. A lot of notes are from individuals that are related to the current area you're in, but there is a connecting thread in the form of a private detective that has been on the case for quite some time. Originally hired to find the child of a wealthy individual, he finds himself deep within cultist lines, leaving behind notes as to his fate. Look, it would be fucked if I just spoiled everything, and the game does have some really nice set pieces and visual storytelling going for it. So this is where we'll stop for now. At the end of the video, I'll spoil a bunch of shit, but I'll warn you beforehand. Don't worry.
I'm a merciful god after all.
I'm gonna paint the town red.
Holy shit. This game oozes atmosphere. It's not just the "it looks like an old boomer game lol" aesthetic. It's the deliberately grimy look everything has. There's an absolute assload of visual storytelling going on in every area, and in combination with snippets of the story told to you through various notes you find in set levels, it paints a complete picture of what it is you're doing, what it is your enemies are actually doing, and why. But it's not just that. It's the ingenious use of the outdated graphic style. Some graphics have gotten an overhaul since I started writing my script, so now the outdated graphical style is an updated, deliberately outdated style. Anyway, back to it. Cultic also plays with lighting, especially in atmosphere-heavy locations. The same grime from the environment can be seen in the enemy designs. They just look like they're modeled after real-life figurines. The way they used to make a lot of the sprites for FPS games in the old days. This look is way harder to nail down than you might think, and they look absolutely gorgeous in a very fucked up way, without feeling over the top or fake. And yes, I know it's a video game and it's all fake, shut up. They're also easy to read in the environment itself, except when they're supposed to not be, like snipers and stuff that literally bank on getting a shot off on you without you spotting them. If you'd shown a younger me, and I mean much younger, like way younger me, this screenshot in 1998 and told me this was from the sequel to Blood called Blood 2 Cultic, I would believe you. Except I wouldn't, because I'm way too smart for that, but hypothetically I would have. I wouldn't hear you tell a lie. Get it? I'm trying to segue to the part of the review where I will talk about this.
Somewhere over the rainbow.
If you thought the visuals were on point, dude, listen. No, I mean, listen. The sound design is fucking ace. It can barely be put into words how good it is. The sound of the enemies has got to be one of the best in the whole FPS genre. Every single enemy, especially the human ones that use weaponry, have clear and distinct sounds associated with their attack pattern. You can hear when an enemy is about to fire its weapon and what weapon it is, allowing you to duck for cover and wait it out without ever even having seen the enemy. There's no...
Now, kids, don't try this at home.
Cultic is definitely more serious, so it's all for the best. Enemies do have voice lines, but they never reach the level of...
Modernocks and Fearbooks!
As for the music, well, I don't want to sound like a dick rider, but it's also just so well done. Well done like a good steak. Yeah, well done is the way to eat steak. This isn't a subtle dig at the music, which is really good. I'm just saying my analogy to steak makes sense if you know that I'm not a degenerate that eats barely cooked meat. I mean, come on, we've mastered fire for a reason. I also drowned that shit in ketchup. The music's atmospheric when it needs to be. When the game wants to make you feel anxious, it will play a more subdued soundtrack. Sometimes there's no music at all, just the sound of crackling and ambient noises. And then it will suddenly swell to a more action-oriented track. It goes from being in a suspenseful horror or slasher movie to action seamlessly.
I've got 2 guns. That should be enough for all of you.
Now the cult will throw everything they have at you. Yeah, you're fighting a cult in Cultic. Sorry for the massive spoiler. The enemies are quite well designed, and as I've already mentioned, it's helped by the fact that they all have very clear sound cues when spotting you and when they attack, and for some of the more powerful ones, even when they simply move around. Cultists, yes again, surprise, you'll be fighting cultists, not you. These cultists feel way more fair than in Blood. Yeah, at some points there will be entire armies of these guys sent after you, but they don't have hit scan weapons. You get the fuck out. In all seriousness, yes, there's cultists in a variety of forms. From the basic brown-robed cultist that wields an axe to the insanely powerful armored incinerator cultist. Some of these guys, and one girl, I think, I'm pretty sure the sniper's female, but whatever, anyway, not important. Some of these cultists have the ability to kick objects in your direction, so carelessly throwing dynamite at them might get it kicked back into your face. Or, even more humiliating.
Cruo Granadas Derby!
On top of the army of cultists, you get freaky aberrations and undead in the form of skeletal cultists and zombies. Fast jumping, scary zombies. Including very cool introduction sequences where you get, well, introduced to these enemies. What did you think introduction sequence meant? Asylum patients with the power of levitation and telekinesis? Yeah, we got those for some reason. Oh, plus a whole ass tank. There is, however, a single thing that is too well emulated from the older boomer shooters, and that's the AI, or more specifically, the inability of certain enemies to traverse some paths of the terrain to go through certain doorways. This sometimes destroys a situation that should be suspenseful. I mean, just run outside this room when Chainsaw Man comes for you and he can't even get to you. I don't know if at least the Chainsaw Man not being able to fit through most doorways could be fixed, but it would be cool if it could. It's not something you wouldn't want to buy the game over, but it's more of a what a shame moment. Now, how do you, as Cultic Guy, remember when we agreed to call him Cultic Guy? Yeah, so how does he/you fight against these overwhelming odds? Well, our man can do pretty much anything you'd expect from a shooter inspired by build engine games. Shoot, run, jump, and swim. But also slide. Now, sliding is something that these games didn't have, and if you're like me, you're inclined to dismiss this ability. It's just used to get through some cramped spaces occasionally. But don't be fooled. I wasn't, but I'm just saying maybe you would be fooled by it. Sliding is probably one of the most useful skills to master. When sliding, you move a lot faster than when you're running, and you can still shoot. This opens up a new strategy during gunfights, and it's fun, which is also important, I've been told. It's surprising how much the slide actually impacts the gameplay. Need to get from cover to cover quickly? The slide has got you covered. An enemy just fired its gun and it's in its cooldown state? Slide towards him and shoot him in the head. Need to get around quickly? Just slide. But what about the weapons? You yell right into my fucking ear, making my tinnitus even worse. Okay, don't worry, my child. Every single murder implement handles exactly like you expect them to, and they are based on real-life weaponry, except for one. On top of that, they can be upgraded by collecting and using weapon kits, of which most are hidden in secret places. Don't worry, you never really need these upgrades for the weapons to be good, although most of the upgrades are worthwhile. You still should choose carefully what you're gonna upgrade, since you can't pick everything. There's simply not enough kits in the game. Let's get to the real meat and potatoes and introduce all these bad boys. Throwing axes excel when fighting enemies in tunnels or other enclosed spaces. High reward for very little cost. Your trusty handgun is your backup weapon, the one you'll use to save ammo on other guns, but can still put out a surprising amount of damage, especially with the burst alt fire that can be unlocked. Blowing things up doesn't really need an explanation. The dynamite is the only weapon until later in the game that takes care of groups of enemies, and even then it can be combined with other weapons by dropping unlit bundles to then blow up by shooting at them, or throwing another dynamite at for even more damage. The Molotov is just broken in certain situations. I mean, some of the bigger guys that can take an immense amount of punishment burn up real easy. The lever action rifle is the type of weapon that you know is going to kick ass the moment you pick it up and fire it once. Absolutely devastating with accurate aim to anything that has a head. The implement of destruction that I think every boomer has fond memories of. The humble shotgun. In real life, not really one of the most glamorous pew-pew machines, but in the realm of FPS games, it's a crime to not include, so obviously it's in. Monstrous up close and can be upgraded even higher with straight up more damage and closer spread. Maybe you're more into then the Sten MK5 is your tool. The only automatic weapon in the game because there's really no need to have anything else. Now this one took me the longest to actually figure out, but it uses mid-range spray or insane damage for insane ammo cost at close range when it gets some upgrades under its belt. Okay, so you've decided that one way to blow up things isn't enough? That's okay. Here's the grenade launcher. Does what it says on the tin. Fires a grenade at longer ranges, but useful everywhere. Except, of course, right in your face, but that's, well, par for the course. This type of weapon was every fucking 12-year-old's choice in Counter-Strike because they get one single kill every 20 deaths. Yes, it's the sniper. Not much info needed. Point it at some cultist's head and blow it clean off at extreme range. And last but not least, the only non-existing weapon. Fireball Spewing Incinerator. Melts pretty much anything into boiling plasma. Ammo isn't as abundant, so you might want to pick your battles with this one. Its alt fire charges up and fires multiple blasts at the same time. Ludicrous damage hitting one target from medium range. Don't stand in the puddles yourself though. Truly last but not least, for real this time, anything you can get your hands on. Barrels, lanterns, toilet seats, throw them or blow them up. Especially the toilet seats. The fights you'll get to use this arsenal in are fun, visceral, and sometimes overwhelming. To add to this, there's a slow motion that occasionally happens which allows you to line up your shots even more effectively. Shooting things that have a head in said head will result in a beautiful blood fountain and reduces the amount of ammo you need to put them down, increasing your chance of survival exponentially. No, really, if you waste too much ammo on the higher difficulties, you might have to start a level with almost nothing. Remember all those items in old school FPS games? Yeah, Cultic doesn't fuck with that. There's two types of armor pickups, or armor pickups if you don't know how to spell. Anyway, they are self-explanatory. Boom Boom or Pew Pew, and the Field Kit, which is a med kit that heals over time when holding down the hotkey, so you can't use it to instantly heal. Although healing into enemy damage is still possible as long as you're not getting blasted by too many at once. The Field Kit is refilled by grabbing another Field Kit, or alternatively health pickups while your health is at max. It won't add the full amount of the pickup to the kit, but every little bit helps. A limited amount of permanent +5 maximum health upgrades in the form of the Imbued Remains are your special collectible, but that's pretty much it. Having no other items might seem very minor or even lazy, but it's a very smart move. No, I'm serious. Think of all the ways you can completely break a lot of these older games by just using some stupid item at the right time. Duke Nukem and the jetpack is a good example. But not in this game, nope, it's just you and your skill. Cultic has 10 levels, of which 2 are boss areas, but all the other levels are large, varied, and they follow a logical progression. You won't teleport From level 1 to level 2, you will go from a trail leading into a cave to the next level starting in said cave.
Pay attention, son. This is for your own good.
First, I have to explain something so you know where I'm coming from. Play a level in one go, save at the start of the next, and when I die, I go back to the save. Never save in between. I feel that gives me the best idea of what the developer was going for, and it also makes you appreciate good design. If a developer relies on you ultra safe scumming everything, then even a trained monkey can develop a level. After all, none of the encounters have to be tuned. What the difficulty settings actually do is change the damage of the enemies, but also some of the encounters. Think of having to face off against certain enemies sooner in a level on higher difficulty. Checkpoints are available and most levels have quite a few. One thing that needs to be said about that is that there's obviously no shame in using the checkpoint. If you're a bitch, that is, that's why I didn't use any. In all fairness, here's the number of times I died playing through the game on very hard. Now remember, this is my second playthrough after I've already finished the game on hard. I also found every secret and therefore had access to some weapons much earlier. For this reason, if you're a veteran of these type of FPS games, I will advise you to start on the very hard difficulty. Just take my word for it. Otherwise you might not really get a good challenge. As for the highest difficulty level, Extreme? In most FPS games, especially the boomer ones, the highest difficulty is usually only fun after you play through the game at least a few times. Otherwise, it just turns into an exercise of brute forcing your way through. I have, however, also played through a large part of the game on extreme difficulty at this point, and I will tell you that one playthrough on very hard would be enough to get your bearing to be able to get through extreme without too much frustration. As an added bonus on the subject of difficulty, after getting all my footage and scripting, which took way longer than it should have by the way, Jason has patched the game a bazillion times and has added options to make everything even harder if you so choose to. The most important aspect, however, is fairness. You never feel like you got cheated. There's always a way out, and when you die, it's your fault. What I'm saying is that this is the Dark Souls of boomer shooters.
Don't waste my time.
Up until this point, I haven't gotten into too many details. Of course, I still had to show some footage in the background, which was unavoidable, but without context for what you're seeing, you didn't really get the full picture anyway. I wanted to go over a few set pieces and fights that I found really cool, and maybe one silly moment from my playthroughs. I'll also spoil the fuck out of the story, so you've been warned. For anyone that doesn't want any spoilers, kindly fuck off to this part in the video, which will take you straight to my conclusion of the game. Right, so now that all those dorks left, we can get into some of the cool shit that this game has to offer. You'll get into this massive prolonged gunfight somewhere through the middle of the first level. Now this first level is absolutely a first level. What I mean is that Jason obviously put his heart and soul into this level because it's the first level you'll play, and it needs to be a good introduction to how the rest of the game is going to be structured and hook you in. I'm just gonna shut the fuck up and let you experience this part. There's many more instances of environmental storytelling. From the very obvious, oh, this is a cultist barricade / fort they set up to allow their own trucks through, but stop anyone else from entering, to the more subtle like this. These dudes are trapped in the attic of a town hall because there's zombies in the town hall proper. You can see this. None of that, oh no, we're trapped, Lester, what should we do? There's zombies downstairs, which you'll conveniently overhear when you climb up the roof. I can't overstate how much I hate the in-your-face treating you like a dumbass approach from modern games. Another great part from the same area is when you explore down into a cellar. The doors close behind you and you'll be greeted by this creepy fuck. When you stomp this monster into the dirt and try to exit, there's 2 cultists waiting for you, one on each side. Gee, I wonder why they're there. There's also something that I didn't want to spoil, but is quite funny. See, in this level, there's a secret over here. This coffin will break later in the level, but for now it's essentially a barricade. You can, however, with some clever movement, get around this problem and actually behind the coffin. Only to get stuck. Totally my own fault, but it was amusing nonetheless. Oh, and let me update the deaths for this level, out of fairness. But don't tell the people that have skipped this spoiler section, okay? It'll be our little secret. Some of you might be wondering, what about that story you were going to spoil the fuck out of, as you so brazenly said during the first part of the video? And shut up, this is my review and I didn't forget. I'm also totally not just writing in your response into the script for me to argue against. But you are right, me writing your response. Let's get into the story, which has some intricacies but is actually kind of perfect for what it is. Now this is my interpretation from the various notes, levels, and of course the environmental storytelling, so I might be completely wrong. Just kidding.
I'm never wrong.
The cult at its base level acts like any cult would. They'll promise you wealth, money, bitches. I made that last one up, but probably since they'll just tell you what they think you want to hear. Don't underestimate these guys though, because going through the game you'll realize the cult is incredibly well organized, supplied and trained under the leadership of the High Archon, who I think is one of the few people actually privy to the cult's real cause. See, they somehow found out that beneath the asylum lies something, the chamber, and so they set out to excavate this chamber to gain entrance. First, infiltrating and subverting the asylum itself, even turning the mental patients into psychic pawns. But how? Well, woven through all of this is the will, which is rumored to just be a set of rules among the less informed cultists, but it turns out to be very real. The will is a force that can be, for lack of a better term, inserted into an individual. If the individual does not get rejected, they gain inhuman power, such as the armored supercultists. If you do get rejected, you die. Well, your essence, including the will, can still be harvested and then imbued into other things, such as skeletons or corpses. It can also have a very nasty effect on your biology, rewriting your DNA through Lovecraftian powers and turning you into one of the fucked up monsters you'll come across in the game. Oh, and these undead and beasts are canonically not controlled by the cult, so they fear them as much as you do. The cult does figure out you're after them though, and they call you the Outsider in various notes. Anyway, obviously this whole excavation business requires manpower, and that's what most poor saps end up being when they join the cult. Just go down there and dig. Not without machinery, but still, it must have taken them quite some time to actually get to the entrance. You, as the ex-detective, are hot on their heels and chase them down every step, but it's too late.
It is done.
I'm gonna have to put you down.
The Abomination. The unexplained pinnacle of the cult's machinations. Doesn't seem too friendly to its summoners, so this being a literal doomsday cult that enacts its own doomsday is not something I think we can rule out at this point. As the final boss, it's quite straightforward. Avoid attacks while attacking the hands, then target the heart when the ribcage opens. Rinse and repeat. The slide is your best friend here and makes the right hand, or our left, easier to deal with. Don't get it twisted though, I'm shitting bricks at this point because I realize I might do this in one try. Cultists will stream in after every phase, which you should really take out because they can quickly cause things to spin out of control, and ignoring them too much during my previous playthrough on hard was what actually killed me a few times. After a long and hard-fought battle, Cultic Guy is victorious. But he is not done. The abomination has opened up some sort of portal. This is how you end a game. Just as succinct as the start. No long monologue, no witty dialogue, just an epic shotgun reload to title. Fucking awesome. You know what? We'll play the credits. Let's just put it in the corner.
End of the line.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Cultic does most things better. Better than Blood.
Bitch.
And I'm not saying this lightly because Blood is my favorite build engine game and perhaps even my favorite old school FPS. It's inspired by Blood, yes, but it manages to be both an amazing FPS game in its own right and a respectable nod to what came before. Even if you are an ultra zoomer that only plays the most bussin' fur no cap FPS games, you can still enjoy this one without having a single shred of nostalgia for the 90s. Because you know, you weren't even in your dad's ballsack at the time. Okay, forget my Blood memeing, which was just done in good fun. Forget the boomer shooter meme because it's not important. Cultic stands on its own and is a testament to what a single developer can achieve. Hopefully this will inspire more budding developers to step forward and realize that you don't need to work for AAA companies that will absolutely drain the essence out of your soul and leave you with nothing in the end. Jason should be proud of his achievement. However, if for whatever inexplicable reason you absolutely need to know how Cultic stacks up against the other 15,000 boomer shooters that have come out in the last few years, then let me tell you this. Cultic is the game I've enjoyed the most, with roguelike boomer shooter Nightmare Reaper being a close second. Make of that what you will. A thing I must mention though is the length. My final time was 3 hours and 17 minutes on hard and 3 hours and 13 minutes on very hard. If you save scum and or are the aforementioned zoomer with the twitch reflexes of a field mouse, you'll probably get through the game even faster. If you don't believe playing through the game again on a harder difficulty or the same one just for the fun of it is enough replay value, then you can always try your hand at the Arena Horde mode, where you'll battle waves of enemies, have to carefully spend your earned points to purchase weapons, ammo and upgrades to see how far you can get, which should add a few extra hours to the game. Cultic is more than worth the price of admission, and we've got a second chapter to look forward to in the future, because
I want some more.
And with that, jack off.